I'm doing this video, this live video on August 13th, talking about the upcoming, here we go, talking about this full moon in Capricorn, which is coming up here in the next day or so. 1 second, let me turn this off. All right, so a lot of stuff going on these days. We've had Mars move into Leo. Jupiter is no longer retrograde. So as we can see on the chart here, that's reflected. Let me pull this up. Let me see. This, yeah, we have this nature, Mars has now gone into Leo. And Mars had been in Taurus, then Gemini, then Cancer, which is, Mars is not so powerful in those places. He goes into Leo, and it's a lot of, strength and power. And so this has been shown, recently with a lot of intensity and passion, and that's certainly informing this full moon. And then also Jupiter is no longer retrograde. It's no longer going backwards like it had been. Jupiter is now, moving forward, or actually it's not backwards. So it hasn't moved. It hasn't really started moving forward yet because it's stationary direct. And so that means that it's sort of stopped in the sky. So the energy is very concentrated. But at least it's not moving backwards anymore. So Jupiter is aspecting these planets here in Cancer. They've actually just passed the exact Jupiter aspect. But we have this full moon. I'll move this forward a day. Oops, right here, birth chart. Move it forward here. So this is on the 14th. It's actually, early on the 15th. You see it moves forward. So into like the 15th, we see the exact full moon. So right now, this is the full moon that we're talking about. It's in Dhanishta Nakshatra in Capricorn. So as you can see, we have this setup here. It's in Cancer. A few things are happening with this current full moon. First of all, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus are hemmed between Rahu and Mars, which is sort of intense, right? You have Rahu in Gemini, which is before all these planets in Cancer, and then Mars afterward. So this transit of the Sun, Mercury, and Venus through Cancer now is kind of surrounded by this intensity of Mars and Rahu. So even though we're feeling this sort of emotional bonding and emotional connection and things like that, it's in this environment of Rahu Mars, which is, Rahu before it brings this kind of imagined stress, especially around our ideas and things like that. And then Mars after in Leo gives this kind of restlessness about what we should do. Like, what should I do? Sort of, what should I do about how I feel, right? It's like Rahu before is trying to figure out how I feel. I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure it out. And then all these planets in Cancer are like, oh, I have all these emotions and all these emotions, feeling all these emotions. And then, and then Mars in Leo, it says, and what should I do? I want to do something about it, but we're feeling kind of restless, right? Feeling kind of restless. And by the way, for some reason the comments aren't coming through on here. So if you're trying to comment, it's just not happening here in real time. So just so you know, it didn't show up on my end either. But anyway, so this is what we have here is this hemming around the sign of Cancer, and Sun, Mercury, Venus in Cancer feeling that kind of hemmed, restless energy. So even though there might be a lot of emotions and deep feelings, there's stress around it, okay? The kind of emotional stress and restlessness. Now, this full moon happens in that context. You see that the moon is in Capricorn. It's in Dhanishta Nakshatra. Now, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Again, it's about pressure, stress, stillness, silence, having to face that inner, peace and find that inner peace. Find that thing that's stable and solid and grounded and practical and focused and concentrated, okay, rather than those things of Cancer, which are irrational and emotional and wanting to flow and wanting to feel and that kind of thing. So the full moon in Capricorn brings that contrast, that kind of mirror reflection, reflecting back the Cancer energy. So we're in the Cancer cycle of Mercury, Venus, Sun, because that's where the Sun is. Again, Sun and Moon came together in Cancer a couple weeks ago. Now the Moon is opposite, reflecting back, bringing the contrast, in contrast to the emotional Sun and these other planets there. There's the practical Capricorn saying, okay, just relax and ground and connect and sink into the truth. Face the truth of your life on Earth. Cancer can be very emotional and very in the moment. And again, this is the nature of the emotions. It's our feelings in the moment and our feelings being changed by every little situation, every little person, everything that comes up. This is the nature of Cancer, is where our emotions become very prominent, in fact, at times too prominent. So we have to understand what the emotions are. It's their feelings in the moment, trying to navigate the world and people, and we have this strong attraction to emotions that feel good. We have an aversion to emotions that feel bad, and it's just this bubbling feeling inside, this feeling of being alive. And the feeling of being alive is like the feeling of being in between sort of two worlds. We're in this world of the body and of this life, and the world of death and what's beyond. Whether you want to recognize it or feel it or not, that's why there's stress and restlessness, because we're not going to live forever. If we were, everything would be very different. But instead, this need to be mature and to be grown up and to be not just triggered by all the things we want in our sort of childish mind. Because again, Cancer is also ruled by the Moon, and the Moon is the part of us that's kind of the most sort of childish in a way, childlike. And so this, this is a big part of the Cancer nature, is to need to have that deep reflection, that practical reflection, to stabilize it. And so we see that in Capricorn, and this full moon in Capricorn is to do that, right? And so we have Dhanishta Nakshatra, it's this part of Capricorn that is related to the drum of creation, Lord Shiva's drum of creation. It's ruled by the 8 Vasus. The 8 Vasus are loosely translated into the 3 gunas and the 5 elements, the 3 qualities of life, Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, and the 5 elements, the 5 primordial compounds. And this nakshatra exists equal between Capricorn and Aquarius. Again, of course, this is the sidereal zodiac, where, as in all the text, it says Ashwini and Aries are at the beginning of the zodiac. So once you give that declaration, all the nakshatras line up this way. So the Dhanishta nakshatra is equidistant between Capricorn and Aquarius. So it shows where those practical commitments of Capricorn yield a tangible result. The 3 gunas, the 5 elements, the building blocks of life then go beyond just creating this world and this stable world through Capricorn, but it actually builds a world that's more social, more cultural, more intellectual, where we then want to also figure things out on a higher level. These are big parts of Aquarius, where we're not just living a practical life and living in accordance with, earning money and accomplishing tangible things in the world, but then we're also sharing that on a higher sort of social level. So this is where Capricorn becomes Aquarius. I've done a recent series, at least a few of the nakshatras, the ones that bridge the different rashis. I'm gonna finish that up, but this is where Capricorn becomes Aquarius, where the tangible, practical effort and hard work of Capricorn becomes the more universalized social structures and creations and creativity of Aquarius. So this nakshatra Dhanishta is where that happens. So this is where the full moon happens. And again, it's related to Lord Shiva and his drum of creation. That's the symbol, the Damaru, the drum. And so, again, it's very creative in that sense, but it's not just creating wealth, although that's a big part of it. Dhan means wealth. So Dhanishta is also very much related to wealth, but it's really about value and what is the highest wealth? What is the highest value, right? Is it just money? If it's just money, then again, it's that sort of lower quality of Capricorn where there could be the potential for greed, greediness, hoarding. If you think the only thing that's valuable is money, then you're just going to live in fear of losing it. Once you learn that the highest value is not something tangible and practical in this earth, but something more, cosmic and a sort of cosmic structure, a cosmic eternal structure, then your commitment and your relationship to time and what you find valuable to focus on and to commit to, which are the qualities of Saturn, become more than just some kind of material benefit. It becomes something that's eternal and more universal. Okay, so these are big themes for this upcoming full moon. Really focusing on and really making a commitment to those things that outlive you, that are bigger than just your separate nature and your family and all of those things. Again, this is the Cancer Capricorn sort of axis. Cancer is very family oriented, so is Capricorn. Again, one of the things about these opposite signs is they have a lot of the same energy, a lot of the same, like the seed principle is contained in in its opposite, but it's expressed in an opposite way. It's expressed even though Cancer and Capricorn have a lot of the same motivations, they come at it from a very different point of view. Cancer and Capricorn both share this sense of duty, commitment, even obligation. They both like family, structure, those kinds of things, but for very different reasons. Cancer because of how it feels, and it feels good, and I'm flowing, and there's love, blah, blah. And Capricorn because there's structure, and there's value, and there's commitment, and there's stability. So they both like stability, but for different ways, and and this one and that one. One is very sensitive. The other one is kind of not insensitive, but it's more practical. So this is that contrast that we're working with right now, doing the thing that's practical yet emotional, and the thing that builds structure and really connects us with our loved ones and with a happy life on earth, but also allows us to transcend and really commit to something beyond. Excuse me. Take a drink here. A little tickle in my throat. So again, like I said, the comments aren't working, so this will just be a quick but important update. We covered the important things here. A couple other things. You see that the Saturn Ketu is separating a little bit here for the time being, but Saturn's going to station and then go direct here soon, and then Saturn's going to pass Ketu again. So we're not done with that, but that's separated a little bit. But the big things that have also shifted, besides besides this full moon forecast, is this Mars now in Leo, really fighting and being and sort of courageously pursuing those things that you want to, go for, that inspire you. And also Jupiter turning direct. And when Jupiter turns direct, or at least stops going retrograde, then there's a lot of inspiration and purpose toward those things that you want to feed into your mind and heart and consciousness. See if this comment posts here. This is my Instagram, and on my Instagram I have I have a lot of updates, and I just did some updates on the Mars in Leo and the Jupiter in Scorpio. So again, Jupiter had been retrograde in Scorpio, where we're reflecting a lot on what inspires us, and quite a bit of it is some dark inspirations. So now we're kind of moving forward out of the dark inspiration toward a higher purpose. So I'm going to do a video update on that, on these recent shifts. Now that the planets aren't retrograde, we're out of that Mercury retrograde and Mars has shifted, you might be feeling a big shift in your nature and feeling a kind of renewed enthusiasm about certain things as well. I'm not immune to these things as well. There have been quite a few things going on behind the scenes that I've had to take care of, but I'm back to doing some more videos here. I had about a week off, but anyway, sorry that the comments didn't work out here. I tried to get it going. There's some setting that was not working, so it's okay. This is just a good, quick, deep update, and I hope you're doing well. And leave some comments and share. Oh yeah, the last thing, if you did want to see how this will affect your sign, you can look at the get this here. I do a forecast for each of the 12 signs that will allow you to see, see if it's even showing up, that will allow you to know how, there are comments. Oh, okay. So I'm just not seeing them in my end. Okay, good. So you guys are seeing comments. Awesome. All right. Sorry about that. I'm not seeing them on my end usually. So now I see them because I'm looking at the actual page. So yeah, but if you want to see how this affects your sign, then that link, the Astrology Training Lab, is there. Only 50 cents. You can join for 2 weeks. And I'm also going to go over right now and record the full moon in Capricorn for each of the 12 signs. Because again, if you're a Gemini like Shiva Kami Esther, then this is happening in your 8th house. Shiva Kami Esther needs some help with that. You gotta check out her dancing. She's a dancing queen. And if you're let's say you're Aries, then this is happening in your 10th house. It's very different than the 8th house. And if you're Pisces, this is happening in your 11th house. The 11th house is about large groups of people, right? So for me, for us Geminis, this is happening in my 8th house. So I'm just scared to death. With all those planets, but see, there's all these planets in my 2nd house that stellium of planets, that Sun, Venus, Mercury's in my 2nd house. So there's a big emphasis on money, wealth, value. That's all that's been happening with the sun going through the 2nd house. So the full moon in the 8th house is saying you have to blow up and destroy all that value in order to get to the real value. See, so this is the tension between the 2nd and the 8th houses. Because we have to elevate and transform and evolve. So our relationship to money and wealth, which is 2nd house, has to evolve. But the way it evolves is that the 8th house comes and destroys it and blows it up and takes away your money, takes away your values, throws all your values into chaos so that you find higher values. This is one example. So each of these lunar cycles have this opposition. I call it the rhythm of opposites, this harmonic tension between where the sun is and where the moon is. So I said, like, if you're Pisces, right, this full moon is in the 11th house. And again, the 11th house is large groups of people and public recognition, and where your individuality is kind of dissolved in the public. In the highest sense, it's related to service and things like that. But that's opposite the 5th house, which is about your own personal creativity, your own personal enjoyment, and wanting to create, and the love of creation. Like, for example, like your child, like your children. We all love our child. We think our child is the most special child ever. That's the 5th house. But what we really want is for that child to become a child that everyone can see and appreciate. We want that child to be a citizen of the world. That's what a parent needs to do. And they want to see their child become, loved and adored, and have everybody see their heart's desire shine in a universal way. Or like an artist creates something. I've been a musician a long time, and I've created a lot of things. And artists and musicians create for the love of their creativity, but then they want to share it with the world. They want to see everyone else love it as well. So this is the harmonic tension between the 5th and the 11th house. These are things related to the Pisces right now, if you're a Pisces person. So that's why we have this that's why we have this quality of these full moons and these lunar phases. These important moments, these full moons and new moons. Again, it's this sort of harmonic tension, and it's between the Cancer and the Capricorn energy right now. Okay, all that energy in Cancer, and again, this hemming that we're seeing. Hemming is very important. I talked about this a lot in my Swiss Army knife course, and in other courses. You see this hemming between Rahu and Mars on the 2nd house. We're all feeling a lot of this, this love of family, this love of connection, this emotion, but it's like our emotions feel kind of surrounded by intensity. Again, Rahu in Gemini is like, I'm trying to figure out what it all means. Like, what is it? What does it all mean? Like, how do I understand my feelings? How can I interpret my feelings? This is like Rahu in Gemini, which is in front of all of the feelings because there's so many emotions. And then Mars afterwards is saying, now what do I do about it? Now what do I do with all these feelings? What can I do about it? What can I do? Because Mars in Leo then is very physical, wanting to physically express ourselves. And it's kind of like, on the full moon too, it's kind of like you can see that it's almost like a sort of bow and arrow, like the bow is kind of drawn over here, whoosh, like it's kind of drawn back, and it's kind of like shooting this sort of arrow and this sort of target. There's like this tension going on, like a sort of tug of war between the sun and the moon. So that's a kind of metaphor as well. I got a million of them. But anyway, glad to see some people here. And I'm going to just leave it at that because, again, usually I can call up some people's comments, but for some reason the comment settings aren't showing up here for me today. And that's, oops, turn this off. And so we'll just leave it at that. But, share this with others. Oh, there they are. God, I don't know what the heck's going on. There they are. They're showing up. So I can go through a few comments and show them. Getting weird stuff here. Sherry LaRosa said hi. Newport said hello. Sherry LaRosa, Leo ascendant relationship is in the dumps. Yay. No, wait a minute. Sorry. I'm getting my messages wrong. Okay. So, howdy. Gemtastic spirit, butterflies, and something else. Hey, Oka. Hey. Namaste, Guru. Always passionate. The explanation is great. Awesome. Okay. Amira H. Hi, Sam. Hi. And Claire. Spiritual Sam and Vedic friends that feel much calmer and optimistic this month of August. Direct Jupiter and Mercury friendly. Yes, it's been a nice shift. That's why I talked about that first. It was an intense eclipse month. I said, we're past the most intense part of the year, but it was no joke, man. That's why I've been talking about it for about a year. Many of us have, with that Mars joined Rahu and eclipse, and then Mercury goes retrograde, Mars is debilitated. It's been full on for about a month and a half, man. It's been the most intense part of the year. So especially now, we've kind of cleared a lot of it. Now that Mars is no longer debilitated, of course, Mercury is no longer retrograde, which was more minor, but also Jupiter is now going direct. So we're still in a bit of transition, especially Jupiter station right now has things kind of stuck, feeling kind of stuck. That's why I talked about if you go to my Instagram page and follow it, you'll see I also bring some updates there because it's quick. It's easy to just put a little update. Should also join my Facebook as well because I post those things as well. Claire says, thank you for all these amazing videos, Vedic videos. You're welcome. Of course, Shiva Kami, thank you so much for this video. Helped ease the dysphoric vibe I felt today for some reason. All right, Shiva Kami, you're certainly welcome. Guru Prasad Nayak said, namaste, hello there. I have Jupiter and Mug in the 10th house in Jeshta, ascendant. Hope this month activates this house. Well, with Jupiter there, with Jupiter going through Scorpio, that's a nice shift, especially in Jeshta. So you'll feel a nice little uptick there. I'm cracking up. Your metaphor is dead on. Good to know I'm not alone. Good. I'm always glad to crack up another Gemini. We're crack ups. That's the best thing for Geminis is you got to keep light. You got to keep laughing, using your intelligence, figure things out. Don't take things too seriously. That's the biggest thing for Geminis, right? Always got to keep light and moving and flowing. Georgina Graham, Capricorn rising, moon in 8th house, Leo. Thanks for teaching me. Look out for Leo energy. All right, great. That's awesome. Well, folks, I'm glad I was able to get these comments working. I don't know why. For some reason, it just didn't come up at first. Samantha says, is it true that Jupiter isn't acting intelligent because it's 12th from its own sign and 12th from Saturn? I wouldn't say that at all. So Jupiter in Scorpio, you just look at the dignity in a natural sense. In fact, the dignity is now neutral, but its relationship with the ruler is the most important thing. When you're looking at planets in transit, the first thing is you look at the relationship to the ruler, its relationship. Jupiter's relationship to Mars is friendly. Jupiter and Mars are mutual friends. Jupiter's in the sign ruled by Mars, and they're mutually friends. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. It's actually great friend because it's also close enough to where Mars is also supporting. So Jupiter is in great friend dignity. That's how you look at it. Yeah, and you wouldn't measure acting intelligent because it's 12th from another planet. You wouldn't do that. No. You look at first the relationship of the planet to its ruler, and then you see how close the ruler is. So just like Mars and Leo. Look, it's very simple. The reason Mars and Leo is quite powerful is its relationship with the sun is very good. They're mutually friends. And in this case, the sun is also very close by, which is the second part of the dignity calculation, right? So again, like for example, Mercury in Cancer, not so good because its relationship with the ruler, the moon, is not so good. Same with Venus in Cancer, not so good because Venus' relationship with the moon is not so beneficial. That one's a little more complicated. Saturn is a kind of neutral dignity. It's neutral when it's in Sagittarius naturally, but since Jupiter is close by, this Saturn in Sagittarius actually becomes in a friendly dignity. If you were to look at it per the specific rules of dignity, it's a compound calculation. That's the way to do it, not these other kind of extrapolated things. The first thing is look at the relationship of the planet to its ruler. You'd like it to be in a mutual friend, where the two rulers are mutually friendly, and then you can look at the dignity after that as well. So you're certainly welcome. Energy seems to be balancing out. Okay, great. Mahina, nice to see you. My rising and sun are both in Cancer. All right, Mary. Well, that's good. So you're having a lot of, resetting here with the sun going through your first house and Mercury, Venus there. Fourth aspect of Mars will be on Jupiter. Yes, it will be. I was about to say that, so thanks for mentioning it. Yes, especially as it gets closer. So as Mars goes and gets closer to Jupiter, you'll find that Mars is going to be activating Jupiter to really fight the good fight, right? So you're going to see, I will make this prediction, you're going to see some of these politicians get a little more of a backbone, a little more of a spine, and start calling out some of the dark stuff that we've been seeing. You're going to see them get more of a spine as Mars gets closer to Jupiter. Just translate that in your own life as well, okay? You're going to feel more enthusiastic about taking on some challenges, maybe correcting some mistakes, and especially unwinding some of the dark things with Jupiter having gone through Scorpio. Again, he's still stationary. As he starts moving forward, and then this aspect from Mars starts to apply a little bit more, there'll be more enthusiasm to get up there and really take on the correct teachings, okay? Samantha, you're welcome. Sam, I'm Taurus Moon and Aquarius Ascendant, running Jupiter Mahadasha, Sun of Mars, Leo, 7th house, powerhouse. Yes, way to go. Samantha said, I've ordered a lot of your courses and both your books. You've cleaned up so many wrong teachings from other astrologers. Thank you for what you do. You're welcome. And yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And a lot of great astrologers out there. I've gone very much by what's in the text and put it all into practice with a lot of research and a lot of case studies and constant analysis and constant tracking of this all the time, just like I'm doing now. It's not just a bunch of theories. And again, that's the only way to make anything work is to test it and research it and see what works and what doesn't. This is why I prioritize certain things. And there are certain things that don't hold muster as much. And so again, it only comes from doing a lot of research, going and looking into the texts very clearly, very directly, and blocking out a lot of stuff. A lot, as you know, even per your statement here, there's no shortage of information and people that want to teach us, all well-meaning. They're sharing what inspires them and maybe what works for them, but that doesn't mean that all of it is vetted, all of it has been worked out, that all of the teachings are really valuable, right? However well-meaning someone might be. So again, one of the biggest problems, especially in this day and age right now, and I talked about this a lot with this Rahu and Gemini, is we are inundated with bad information. Look, we live in a time when this thing called fake news is just part of what we all deal with. Everything is propaganda. Everybody who can turn on a camera and is decent looking or has motivation or a big ego can get on YouTube and say anything, and half the people will believe them because they don't know any better, and we're intellectually lazy. Again, I'm not just saying with astrology or whatever, but just in general, there's nothing but bad information. And so I said even several months ago that Rahu going into Gemini is going to be a time to really see the truth. And those who are not putting out correct information, fraudulent information, fake news, whatever it is they're going to have more and more pressure brought upon them, because Rahu is powerful in Gemini, and it's going to show us and reveal those who are putting out the good information, and those who are really bringing the wisdom. It will come out, and those who haven't been, that will come out also, right? So again, it's a big part of what's going on, and it's no judgment, personal judgment about who's better or worse or a nice person or not. It's just a matter of the information. It's all a matter of the data. It's nothing personal or whatever. So yeah, there is a lot of sloppy scholarship in astrology for sure. And so I appreciate, Samantha, that you said that, and it's true. I don't say anything unless I've really researched it, really vetted it. And there's things when people ask me, I'll say, I don't know. I haven't researched that yet. This is actually one of the biggest problems that I see astrologers have sometimes. There's a couple pretty famous ones. And of course, I'm not going to say their names, but even when they haven't researched something, they'll give some answer that's just totally nonsensical. Again, this is a trap that authorities or teachers can get into. Again, when they have a big ego. And it could happen with me. I'm not really tempted to do it though, but someone asks me a question and it's something I haven't researched. I'll say, I don't know. And I'll tell them why. I'll tell them maybe why I haven't researched it, but I'll say, well, I didn't really find it to be that compelling. I'm sure I've looked into it a little bit, but if they ask me a technical question about it that I don't know, I'll say, I don't know. I haven't really looked into it that much, but here's what I think about the technique or the system. And that's it. But unfortunately, you'll hear people, and I see it. I'll see people will ask an astrologer a question. The astrologer is utterly unequipped to answer. It's way over their head. That doesn't stop them from saying a whole bunch of stuff. My God. Anyway, I don't want to go off on that too much, but that's one of the biggest problems, is also just not having humility. Anyway, so enough of that. So anyway, there's several more comments here, and this is so Samantha says Virgo ascendant, Sun, Venus, Moon, logic, practicality. Right? Yes, absolutely. So, and by the way, even when I'm saying that, I'm just talking about astrology. I'm just saying in general. You just see this general, and in fact, I'm not even really talking about it as much with astrologers, although I do see it. Frankly, I don't watch a lot of other astrologer stuff, but I just mean in general too. When you'll see people ask a question and they have no idea what they're talking about, but because they're, I don't know, in a position of authority or something, they will just answer this random and just have an opinion. So anyway, what we're dealing with right now is a time when these things are going to be revealed, when these truths are revealed. That's what Rahu in Gemini is very much about. So it's a challenge and it's a stress. Again, it's also stressful because when you start getting these good answers, it starts to destroy the bad answers. And then we have to make a change. We have to adjust. And sometimes that's hard. Again, that's how Gemini is opposite Sagittarius, which just wants to believe and have faith and stay on track. Gemini comes and says, yeah, but that's not right. And kind of blows up the whole thing. That's the nature of Gemini, particularly Ardra Nakshatra. So anybody who has a lot of Ardra in their chart. By the way, there's one thing that I came to and I wanted to just let you know of, and I just realized this. You can even see this in my screen that I have up here. I recently, and I just got into this last night for some reason, I got an email from Ancestry, ancestry.com, that website. And, I don't usually pay any attention to it, but it just sort of popped up and it was just a random message. And I clicked on it for some reason. And I have an Ancestry account where you can look at your ancestry, right? And, I find it interesting every now and then. I guess maybe it's that, for me, I have the, Saturn in the 8th house, and sometimes I think about my ancestry. But what's open in my software program right now is the charts of my great grandfather and my grandparents' wedding. These things were online. I hadn't looked at it ever before, but they now can trace my great grandfather back to Italy. And I knew he was born in Italy. Even my great grandfather, even my great grandfather's father, that's there now. And so I have my great grandfather's birthday, and I just for the heck of it, just wanted to pull up his chart and look at it. It was very interesting because when I went back and looked, my great grandfather was named Sam, just like me. It was an Americanized version of his Italian name, which was Salvatore, and he named my grandfather after his father, who was named Costanza, and they called him Lorenzo. So my actual name is Lawrence. My first name is Lawrence. It's Lawrence Samuel, which is actually an American version of Lorenzo Salvatore. It's a very Italian name. But anyway, I'm talking about this because all of these planets right now are going through my second house. So this is my second house, which has to do with family. And it can make someone nostalgic and kind of sentimental. And I didn't even realize until we started, and I looked at my program that was open, and I saw, oh yeah, great-grandfather and then grandparents' wedding. I actually pulled up the wedding date of my grandparents. This is when my grandparents were married. so these are my father's parents. This was their wedding day. They had it on record. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. My grandparents were married on this day. Look, K2 moon. So this is when my father's parents were married, 1936. Anyway, so the reason it was interesting is because right now we have all these planets in the second house for me, because I'm Gemini. And it's all this thing about family. Nostalgia is Cancer. So maybe you're feeling very nostalgic. Maybe you've been feeling nostalgic for several weeks. And again, as it gets near this full moon in Capricorn, again, things that are old and kind of looking back into ancient times to find my great-grandfather's birth chart, birth date, and even his father, my great-great-great-grandfather's birth chart in Italy and Sicily. So this is a big part of Cancer as well. And also Mars and Magha. Mars and Magha Nakshatra also has to do with ancestry. So this is the kind of thing that can happen because this Cancer is in my second house because I'm Gemini. I've been feeling very nostalgic. And this is how you see these kind of cycles play out. They play out this way. It's just suddenly I got nostalgic. I just followed this link for some reason. And I was in there for like about an hour and a half looking up some ancestry. It's pretty fun to do. It's amazing all the stuff that they have on file, especially what they used to have back in the day. Like you can find, like for instance, my grandfather on my mother's side, his like draft notice, like when he went to fight in World War II. My great grandfather went to fight in World War I, and you see when they enlisted. I mean, I don't think you have these records now, but they kept him back in the early 20th century, and they're all archived. So it's pretty amazing to see like my great grandfather's signature, getting ready to go off to World War I, and my grandfather on my mother's side going to fight in World War II when he was 22 years old. Just anyway, so this kind of Cancer nostalgia second house thing, opposite this moon in Capricorn, just very interesting case study. It just occurred to me when we started the call, when I started the video, and I saw what charts were open in my program. So anyway, just a little personal thing there, but and we'll just leave it at that. So someone did ask about my certification course. I'm going to be sending out, in fact, one of the things that I'm doing right now, I'm finally getting, I'm going to be accepting new students here real soon. All this energy, I've been kind of in it, okay? I've been ready to put this stuff out, but I haven't because it just wasn't the right time. Now that Mars is in Leo and Jupiter is about to be moving forward, there'll be a lot more information about the certification course. So everybody can stay tuned for that. And Lisha Kali, my grandpa's name too, Paisan. Oh, Salvatore, huh? Lorenzo Salvatore. Yeah, my great-great-great-grandfather's name was Costanza Geppi, and they called him Lorenzo. And then my great-great-grandfather's name was Salvatore. And then he came over from Ellis Island and called himself Sam once he came to the United States. Then he named my grandfather Lawrence Samuel, which is an Americanized version of Lorenzo Salvatore. But then by the end of his life, when he died, he was calling himself Salvatore then because it wasn't a stigma anymore to be known as Salvatore. Because when he came over through Ellis Island, it wasn't so chic to be an Italian. This is what they were. They actually called them wops, which means without papers. If you've ever heard Italians called wops, it was a derogatory term, which means without papers when they came through Ellis Island. So for much of the 20th century, he called himself Sam. So people walked around and called him Sam Geppi, just like they call me Sam Geppi. That's my great-grandfather. But by the time he died, on his death certificate, it said Salvatore Geppi. So it was okay to be known as Salvatore by then. So anyway, interesting to go back and look at all that. But anyway, I hope you guys have a good Have a good day, week. We'll be in touch. I'm going to be doing some updates on this Jupiter in Scorpio and the Mars in Leo, and some of this coming up. I have some videos planned. So you all take care. Have a good one.